What is going on, YouTube family? Welcome back to another day trading, swing trading, technical analysis video on the NAS100. We're going to pick up from where we left off in regards to the moves that took place last week, how I was able to obviously take the best possible positions that allowed me to capitalize on those moves, right? As well as the key things that I always look out for, which is mainly the running theme of this whole entire video series, which is looking out for key levels, and these are the levels I'm going to be discussing with you throughout this video, so make sure you stay tuned to watch through it all. And obviously the useful parts, or the parts that you find incredibly useful, make sure obviously you think about back testing those strategies to make sure they're super solid before you actually implement them in your overall trading strategy, right? So with all of that said, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification, and drop us a like. Okay, so with that covered, we're just going to get straight into the moves that we did last week. So the first thing I want to do right now is I'm going to bring in the separator, okay, which is going to split last week, so the previous week, which is where we did the video, right, the week that took place, which is this area over here, okay, and we're going to talk about some of the key moves that became apparent, right, how we navigated it, right, and also what to expect for next week, which is week commencing the 19th. All right, so the 19th. So let's get straight into it. So let me just find so we've got the Monday here. Okay, cool. Right, so the last video that I did, right, with you guys, we were looking at what was going on in this area over here to predict what could happen in this area over here, right? And two things took place, right? And like I always say, especially with the strategy that I use, which is using the weekly highs and the weekly lows to help you figure out what to do in a market. This area over here was where we got given an okie doke, right? So an okie doke took place in this area, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more as to how that okie doke took place, how it could have potentially screwed over traders. Okay, I did get caught out in it, but bottom line is I was able to recover all of the losses that I made just by following that rule that I have been talking about for a period of time anyways. I wouldn't say for a long period of time, but for a period of time anyways, right? So let's just get rid of some of these levels that I drew here because we don't need those anymore. So last week, right, I mentioned these areas, right, which was 17994.9, which is the high side, the weekly high, and we looked at 17476.1, which is the weekly low, right? Okay, so the first thing that took place on a Monday was the weekly high was taken out. Okay, so we got our indication that we should have been looking for buys in the market, and then what essentially happened, right, what essentially happened was price began to push down. Okay, now like I say, this thing that I talk about, weekly highs and weekly low, it does require a lot of work in terms of your overall understanding as to how it basically moves. Like, it's not a plug and play system, it's a system that requires work, but if you know what to look for and how to look for it, you're going to be just fine, right? So what was the key thing that we looked at in this area to let us know that maybe this was going to fall down a little bit more than it should have, right? Well, basically what happened was the low of that Monday was taken out on the Tuesday. That's that right here. So price took out the weekly high, which was set on a Friday, created a new weekly high up here, okay, came down and came down all the way down, and then on the Tuesday took out that daily low for the Monday. Okay, so if you wanted to and you was able to spot it right, okay, you could have put in your sells right here, okay, and then ridden it all the way down. But that's not the key point that I actually want to mention, because we had a much better signal that came in, right? Much better signal that came in, and that one there was the one that I actually looked out for. Okay, so first things first is we're going to look at these two areas over here, which is the Tuesday high and the Tuesday low, right? Now the Tuesday low is really important for us. It's really low because that turned out to be the low of the week, right? Okay, but also at the same time it was also super important. Reason being is the previous week's low, okay, the Tuesday low, or the low of the week when it was formed on the Tuesday, okay, it did not actually close below the weekly low, right? Which effectively meant for me that this weekly high, this weekly high over here, or say this weekly high, but this one is the most important one because the week is still playing out, and until the week closes, we don't really look at the highs that it sets until the following week. So for this week, going into this week over here, this is where this weekly low over here and this weekly high over here becomes important. But for the previous week, we just looked at that as that's the thing that it's just done. It could still guide us, okay? It could still guide us. I'm not gonna take that from the table, but ultimately we wanted to use these levels over here as the decision makers in terms of how we moved in the market, okay? So on the Tuesday, price came all the way down, okay? Basically came all the way down, didn't close below the weekly low of this week, right? But then gave us a parabolic push to the upside, okay? So what I basically did, because essentially I took a buy at this level over here. So I took a buy at this level over here, okay, in anticipation that it was going to go up, and it didn't go up, it closed me out. But in hindsight, I could have used the low, right? I could have used the low and that would have helped me, but I let it just fly all the way down, do its thing, and then settle, because I knew the weekly high had been taken. So at some point we was going to be getting a push to the upside. All I had to do was wait and see if it took out that weekly low of this week, and it didn't do that. So when I saw the parabolic move to the upside, right, I didn't go bed early that night on the Tuesday. I stayed up for market open, and then as soon as market opened on the Wednesday, so it opened on the Tuesday at 11, right? That's when I locked in my trade. So it was right before midnight, right? So what I basically did was I put in my buy over here. I set my stop just below the previous weekly low, because that's what I always talk about, right? So the weekly low over there, I set my stop over there, which was a nice stop. I must admit, it was a really, really nice stop. I like that stop, right? And then I just rolled it all the way up. I rolled it all the way up. Now on Friday there was news that was coming out, so I knew that I had to be careful at this point. News was coming out, and news could basically either put me in a really good position or put me in a bad position. So what I basically did was, right, I just basically said to myself, I'm going to try and take as much from the table as I possibly can. As much from the table as possibly can. So what I did was I brought in my trailing stop right under here, okay, which would have been the situation that would have been taking place during the Tokyo hours, right? So the low of the Tokyo hour was where I brought in my trailing stop, and I stuck it right under here. And obviously when the news broke, what happened, it just took me out completely, right? And that was my trade done for the week. So 2 trades for last week, lost one, won the other. So what I learned from this area, which is where I made a mistake, right, was a high had been created on a Monday, right? And that low of the Monday, when that low was taken out, okay, I should just put in sales to write it down, but I didn't do that. But that's what I should have done. So moving forward in my analysis, when I'm looking at weekly highs and weekly lows, I'm also going to be keeping an eye on how the daily lows and the daily highs are treated by the market as we move forward, right? So that's the vibe that I'm kind of going off of right now, right? That's the vibe I'm going off of right now, right? So moving forward, analysis for next week, coming week commencing the 19th. It's going to be as simple as, right? Once again, I'm going to be doing the same thing I always do, which is I'm going to be keeping an eye on the weekly high, which was set last week on Monday. So that's that right here. So just assign a nice little label to that. And then I'm going to target the weekly low, right? So in the next few hours, because today right now the time is what, 10:49 on the Sunday morning, right? So we still got a few more hours to go until market opens at 11 o'clock tonight, right? So when market opens, I want to see what market is going to do. I want to see what it's going to do, what area is going to target, how it's going to target it, and then that's when I'm going to be making my moves. So the key areas that I'll be keeping an eye out on, right, would be on the high side, I'll be looking at 18055.8, and then on the low side, I'll be looking at 17480.3, right? If either one of these is taken out, I'm going to start making preparation to enter the market in the direction of what was taken out, okay? So like I said, it requires a little bit more of finessing. This is where it's a bit more of an art, supposing to it being a science. But when you get your first signal, you have to start looking in that direction. So for example, going back, when the high was taken out, when the weekly high was taken out on a Monday, okay, right? It made sense to only look for buys. Even if you got it wrong, like I did, right? You weren't wrong because your assessment was on point. It's just that market pulled down a lot more than planned, right? Because ultimately, what did market do? It went all the way down. Okay, it went all the way down. It didn't close below the weekly low, which meant that there was a very high chance it was going to push up. There was buyers waiting at this level to push price up. Hence why we can see the parabolic push to the upside. There were buyers waiting right here to push price up, and that's exactly what price did. It went all the way up, a nice staircase all the way up to the upside. All the way up to the upside, and then it started to collapse. So in my opinion, looking at the move of how this push to the downside is appearing, there is a higher probability that market will be pushing down and possibly take out the weekly low, and then it might push back up again to give us an entry opportunity at a discounted price, where if you're feeling comfortable, right, you could actually join the market from that level, or you may not join the market from that level. Ultimately, that decision is a decision that you will make, because naturally, like I always say, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. I am just sharing my sketchbook, my ideas, my concepts with you all. It may resonate with you, it may not. Either way, that's all I can do, is just share how I like to do things in the market as honestly as possible with you all. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to jump into a higher time frame to get a much better look of the macro, and for that I'm going to go into a different chart. So essentially, let's look at this on a higher time frame. Let's get this up. Okay. So as you can see with this daily chart, I've marked out the fair value areas of where I expect price to come into. Okay, right? And also at the same time, there is a possibility we could be having a head and shoulders up here, right? That possibility is kind of there. It's not fully formed yet. We may get some type of indication next week in regards to if it is going to come all the way down. We already have a parabolic red pushing all the way down. If it comes into this zone, into this fair value gap zone, okay, then it only makes sense that it's going to push back up again. And where it stops its push, if it's anywhere near 17665.9 and it starts pulling back down again, then it's fair to assume that we have a head and shoulders, and we should all now begin to reverse our position and start taking bearish positions instead of bullish ones. But as it stands, bullish position seems like the most logical thing to do based on the current trajectory of market right now. Okay, that's just my view, that's just my opinion. Once again, not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not telling you that what I'm saying here is 100% gospel. Everything I'm saying does require you to do your own due diligence, do your own homework, make sure it all makes sense, okay, right? Because we all know money don't grow on trees, where the paper does, but you know, it doesn't necessarily grow on trees, right? So you don't want to be playing it you don't want to be allocating it to positions that are just not workable, right? You really want to understand what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, and most importantly, you must be able to explain it to anyone as to why you took that position. If you can't explain why you took the position other than somebody told you to take that position, you don't know what you're doing, and you need to stop, right? You need to stop. You need to know how you're making the decisions that you're making. If you know that, trust me, you're so far in front, it's crazy. Because a lot of people that trade cannot explain why they get into the trades that they get into. They just can't explain it. And if you look at the overall trading history, you will see for yourself what's going wrong, right? And obviously, all of this stuff that we're talking about, it all requires work. This thing is not easy. It looks easy when you look at it on social media, but it's not easy at all. Okay, this is the most taxing career you could ever decide to embark upon, okay? And because you've decided to do that, give yourself a pat on the back, because not everyone can do this. This is for a small selection of the population globally that have the mindset, the patience, the focus, the discipline to be able to navigate the market. Not everyone can do this, and this takes years and years and years of practice. You don't learn this over a 2-week period. You learn this over a long period of time. And once you have this information in your possession, there isn't any market you cannot navigate, okay? If you want to do stocks, you can do that. If you want to do cryptos, you can do that. The same rules apply to every single one of them, but to understand it, that's where the pain comes in. So that's my little rant, right, that I'm sharing with you now. That's that little rant there done. And before I kind of like move on to the next part, is I want to give a big shout out to PK. So PK right now, obviously, he's dropping bars in the comment section, and pretty much he left a comment just basically just saying, hey, rather than trying to pronounce his name that I was struggling with, so he understood, he empathized with me. I definitely appreciate that. He's put down that, hey, I can address him as PK. So PK, you are the man. And once again, thank you for your support on this channel. I definitely appreciate you all. I appreciate you, PK, and I appreciate every single person that comes on to obviously see what it is that I have to say in regards to the NAS100. And I always encourage every single one of you to leave your thoughts in the comment section, because I don't know it all. I'm learning from you guys too. So share that with me, and if I back test it and it all makes sense, what it is I do is I will bring it to you all as, hey, I back tested this idea. This is how it looked. This is how it worked. So if you want to go and try it out for yourself, make sure you apply your rules, your logic, how your lifestyle kind of works with this particular strategy, and then see if there's any results in it. And if there are, win-win, right? So so with all of that covered, my awesome people from all around the world, once again, I want to thank you for coming over to watch another episode, okay? I definitely appreciate your energy, and I wish you nothing but abundance and success in your trades for next week. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video, which will be very, very soon. So for now, this is Pips and Points signing out.